Alright, so originally for this video I was going to do a time-lapse of this illustration which I just finished recently, my cereal hair mermaid lady. But instead, after realizing how many examples I had to show for this video, I decided it would be better if I just sat down and had a chat. I promise in the near future I will have an actual video of me drawing. But for now, here is this video. So this is a video that I've been wanting to make for a while because it's a question that I get asked a lot that I never would have been asked a few years back. So the reason that I feel somewhat qualified to talk about this is because if you look at the work that I've done for like the past decade up until maybe like a year ago, you can see that it's mostly the same thing. It's portraits and people standing in t-shirt and jeans. It's not that my work is the pinnacle of creativity now, but when you look at what I was making, I feel like the improvement is very obvious. So in this video, I'm going to get into some of the things that have helped me to come up with different and maybe better ideas than I have in the past. So probably the most important thing, I think, is to analyze the work of your inspirations. So whatever artists you think are the most creative, I would look at their work and really try to figure out what makes it creative. So for me, I started really trying to maybe diversify what I was drawing back when I started my Instagram, so just like a year or so ago. And at the time I was really studying the work of James Jean. Back then when I was studying his work, I noticed that what I found creative about his work was how detailed it was. There were always tons of objects, you know, shapes, unique shapes, tons of detailed, intricate lines, and I kind of realized that in order to make my work better, I needed to just make more to my work. I needed more objects, more substance, more something. In the beginning of my Instagram, you can see me kind of trying to do that. I was incorporating creatures and maybe some flowers and just kind of trying to come up with things that were more than just portraits and people standing. What's creative to one person might not be that creative to someone else, so I would encourage you to just look through your artists, your favorite artists that you find to be like creative inspiration, and figure out what it is that you think that makes them creative. And the more that you do this, the more you'll start to notice patterns, and I feel like now I can look at a piece and pretty easily tell you what makes it creative. So aside from the whole detail aspect and just having more to the work that you do, I realized that also things that I found creative were oftentimes a combination of two different objects or ideas. So a few examples of this: Clay Charms, I've been loving their work. They just do these little charms and combine turtles with different objects or foods or whatever. I love these fruit ones of theirs. I've been super inspired by their dessert turtles in general, but I think they're a great example of just trying to combine two different ideas into one. Also a good example of this would be Hen Kim. I'm probably pronouncing that completely wrong, but their work is a great example because they take objects and they combine them in a way that you wouldn't have thought of before, like with the tea bag and the fishing rod and the cassette tape as a bicycle, ideas like that. And the third example of this would be Mayoko. Their work also often combines different objects. So for example, I really like this illustration where they combined transparency and water with clothing, and they have lots of other works like this that you'll find combining these sorts of ideas. So it doesn't even have to be something complicated. The stuff that I'm doing now is just, well, the stuff that I've been doing lately for Mermaid has just been a combination of mermaids and food. And another important part of creativity, I guess I should mention, is shape design, which it's a huge topic that deserves like a million other videos. So I won't get into it now, but if you look at, let's see, who's a good example of this? So as far as shape design goes, if you look at the work of Gaston Pacheco or like Nuria Tamarit. That's butchering their names once again. Also, I'll have all of these artists linked in the description down below so that you can go check all of them out if you don't know them already. But those two are like a fantastic example of creative shape design. So even just looking through their work, I feel like you can get a sense for what I mean. Gaston Pacheco does a lot of unique character design that's based on shape. That's like a fantastic way to up your creativity, is to incorporate more unique shapes and shape design into your work, which is a little more complicated and something that I could make a whole nother video on, but for now you get the idea. So this one is kind of an obvious one, but I think it's important to have a large body of inspiration that you're drawing from. So save things on Pinterest, save things on Instagram, on your computer, whatever works for you. Make sure that you have lots of diverse artists that you're drawing from. And there are also great accounts on Instagram to find new artists. Some of the ones that I follow are children_illustrations. These are great for finding children's book illustrators. And I find that those artists often have a great grasp of shape design, so they would be really good to look at if you're looking to improve that aspect of your art. Beautiful Bazaar Magazine is another good account to find new artists. They do a lot of more realistic styles, but also very surreal art. Illustration Daily is probably my favorite. I've found a lot of good artists through there. And then lastly, the Procreate account is also a good place to find digital artists. So if you have a large body of inspiration that you're drawing from, I find that it's much harder for the well to kind of dry up, because a lot of the time you can look at the art that you're inspired by, and I don't know if it was this easy in the beginning, but now when I look through the people who inspire me, I find ideas of mine just kind of bouncing off from something that they've done. So if you're kind of struggling to come up with ideas, I would suggest even just taking maybe like 3 different illustrations and then trying to figure out a way to combine those ideas into something new. And I guess my last point is just to take the time to come up with ideas. I think that a lot of times when we think of creativity, we think that it should just be this like magical thing that just comes naturally, but don't feel like you have to come up with these ideas just out of nowhere. Don't get me wrong, it does get easier as time goes along. Like I find it doesn't take me as much time to come up with something lately, but I'll definitely spend like an hour just coming up with an idea for a particular illustration if I don't already have an idea that's, you know, on the back burner. So I really think that creativity is a muscle, and the more that you kind of stretch it, the easier it gets to use it in the future. I think that's all the tips I have. Hopefully that was somewhat helpful, but I really like making videos like this because it's things that I think about a lot. I'm a huge fan of like analyzing the work of others. I feel like that's kind of what has helped me to improve in the past more than anything else. So if you guys have any other topics that you'd like me to cover, maybe, just feel free to leave them in the comments below. I will be making a actual time-lapse video in the future, I promise. There will be a video of me actually drawing. Thank you to everyone for the support on my last video, I really appreciate it. You guys are super sweet. Yeah, I think that's it for this video, so I will see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.